on the phone.
On a phone.
Yeah.
One emergency to the next.
Yeah.
I love it.
Podcasting is not an emergency.
Well, it still seems like
different.
it's a crisis situation though for me. I mean, I just love it. It seems like 911 behind this mic.
Bailey, how well do you know Shane?
Gosh.
A couple of years now.
Yeah,
But
years.
like, have you had a conversation with him?
She doesn't know my last name. I don't know her last name either.
Yeah.
So no,
Probably not well enough.
no, we've never spoken.
Bailey Foxall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her name now.
Very smart lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, USC grad.
Yep. Where'd you go to school?
Yeah, I did my undergrad at Chapman University, and then I did my master's in social work at the University of Southern California.
Yeah, good for you.
How is that? I mean, how's her sound? Good? Perfect? Okay. Are we rolling?
Would we have anything else but perfect with Bailey?
Michelangelo? Damn, what are you eating? I want that.
Nice. My favorite.
I got Reese's eggs in my office.
Yeah, I eat one every day.
Yeah.
Do you? Wow. You're allowed to.
Yeah, right.
We're not.
Yeah, it goes straight to my hips.
Yeah, it goes right to my belly button.
Belly button?
Yeah. Everything goes right there now. You know, it's like a little tire just hanging out.
As you get older.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's why I started this new carnivore diet. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not Atkins, but it's more carnivore MD where there's no plants. So I don't believe in vegetables.
You don't
No,
believe in vegetables?
I don't believe in vegetation. I do not eat vegetables. It's been a couple of years now. I just do fruits and meat now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have not heard of that diet before.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
A no vegetable diet.
Yeah, I eat a lot of vegetables.
Do you?
Yeah.
How's your tummy? Is your tummy okay? Ever bloating or
Well, right now
irritable
I'm
bowel syndrome?
pretty
or?
bloated since I'm 8 months pregnant.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
Wow.
I mean, she is pregnant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
I'm
pregnant.
currently 8 months
Which is-
pregnant.
yeah.
So
which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing like the smell of a newborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just had a newborn.
Well, 5 years old now. But
5.
Yeah.
Well, 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. My youngest is 14.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's been a
Good
long
for you.
time.
Whole new chapter in your life.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you.
So Bailey was also an athlete.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did gymnastics for most of my life.
Wow.
Was on the cheer team in high school, competitive cheerleader. So
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
big thing in
Like
America.
competitive. Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually, the cheer competitions are a really big deal.
They are.
Take them very
A lot of people.
seriously.
Yeah. Televised. I've watched those. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially now with like what was the Netflix series
Right?
Cheer?
Yeah. Hilarious.
A lot of people know a lot more about it.
Yeah.
It's no joke. It's
It is
really
no joke,
serious.
yeah.
Yeah. And the cheer parents, the
They're
moms and
crazy.
stuff. Yeah.
Go.
I just watched a podcast with Logan Paul, and he had Dana White on, and Dana White's daughter is in competitive cheer now.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
He is.
And like he said that people come up to him and like, what are you doing here? And he's like, what do you mean? What am I doing here? My daughter's in cheer.
Yeah, my dad came to every competition and
Oh, that's
got
nice to have
super
that support.
invested
Nice.
in my,
Yeah.
Did he
my
ever get
cheerleading
crazy?
career. No, but he did, he really, which I appreciate, tried to learn as much as he could about the sport because he obviously, didn't.
Just so we're referring to this as a sport. I'm just saying that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a sport.
It is
yeah.
a sport.
Absolutely.
I
Definitely
agree.
a sport.
I agree. I'm teasing.
But yeah, so he really did a lot to try to
Yeah.
understand what cheerleading was, came to every competition, would have comments about like my tumbling and, my face
He would-
needs to look
Yeah.
happier. And
He would critique you.
yes, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Good for you. Do you have any siblings?
I have a brother.
How was he with the brother?
So my younger brother is very like a guy's guy, athlete,
Yeah.
sports. So my dad was his coach for
Wow.
baseball and soccer
That's nice.
and everything else all the way through high school. So yeah, my brother was,
You guys just love your dad.
yeah,
How's mom?
he's the best. Mom's great. She was a stay-at-home mom most of
Yeah.
our lives. And then she did, she was a preschool teacher. She very much has the personality for that as well. She's very friendly and sweet and kind.
I'm patient.
So she'll be a good
Yes.
grandma.
Yes. They'll both be wonderful grandparents.
Yeah.
So we're really fortunate.
That's a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Where'd you grow up?
Mission Viejo,
Mission
California.
Viejo.
So right down the street.
Where'd you go to high school? Mission Viejo?
I went to Capo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Capo.
Capistrano Valley High School, which actually both my parents went to Capo as well. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Very cool.
Been here a long time.
Yeah.
Well, the family has.
Nice.
Yeah.
Family means a lot. Without family, I mean, you're stuck.
Hmm.
And without a good family, you're stuck.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Chad, I mean, your family's awesome.
Yeah, I have a good family.
You know, my family's picked me up by the boots. Your family's picked you up
I'm
by
only alive because of my family.
Right?
Yeah, I'd be dead otherwise. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Family means everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that those relationships are incredibly important. And obviously, like working in this field, we know that it's actually a huge protective factor, right? For people that are getting sober, struggling with mental health issues it's required more or less to have some kind of positive social support, whether it's in your family or a family that you build on your own, in the sober community or whatever it may be. But having someone or multiple people that are supportive to you really increases your chances of being successful in life in general, but in recovery.
Yeah, show me your friends, I'll show you your success rate. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what do you do for a living?
Well, I'm the clinical director here at Hope by the Sea. So essentially, I oversee the clinical department. So oversee all of the therapists and case managers here in the program. I also facilitate some of the experiential therapy groups at Hope by the Sea. So experiential therapy is a type of therapy technique where the group members use like expressive tools to recreate past and present situations. So essentially it's like mirror exercises, role playing, things like that. So we do psychodrama, we do family sculpture. So that's what I do. That's my job.
Wow, that's like way beyond my scope of.
Me too. That's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go back, explain a little bit. Like, what is that exactly, just to the normal person?
Sure. So I facilitate the experiential therapy groups, as I said. So essentially it's requiring the patients to go back to past experiences that kind of are underlying causes or contributing factors for their substance abuse. So we're looking at like the root causes, right? Like what led you to seek out substances as a means of coping in the first place? And then what are some things that we can do differently now that we're able to recognize those things and process and resolve some of those experiences? So essentially, again, like psychodrama is a mirror exercise. So the goal of the exercise is to help the patients, process their individualized experiences, practice like healthy emotional release without drugs and alcohol, and then help to establish healthier patterns of behavior moving forward. So to allow them the opportunity to practice like, okay, I'm feeling this emotion. Normally I would use or drink,
Right.
but this is what I'm going to do instead, right? And we allow them that space to identify and then actually utilize the coping skill so that they can build confidence in themselves to be able to do that moving forward.
I actually hear a lot of good stuff about that group, about those two groups.
Yeah.
The psychodrama and the family sculpting.
Yeah.
I've actually never watched any of it.
Really?
I don't know why. I let that part just happen organically, and it's out of my educational background. So I just kind of let you all do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I may be biased, but I think it's like the best, two of the best groups here. But no, I seriously feel like privileged to be able to sit with them for 6 hours every week and do that with them and go through that process with them. Even when I've changed positions throughout my role here, being here almost 4 years, starting as a associate therapist and, kind of moving my way up. That's something that's always been non-negotiable with every new position that I've taken, is that I still get to facilitate those groups,
right.
Because I feel honored, like, to actually be in there and like witness
The changes.
healing and
Right.
like watch people get to experience something in a safe place. And like nothing bad happens, right? And they get to like actually process that and feel the emotions, and they don't have to go and use over them or use because of it. So yeah, selfishly, I love doing those groups.
I just saw Frank walk by just behind you just a few minutes ago. Who's your partner in that?
Yep.
Those groups, and he was carrying a bag of Reese's eggs.
Really? Are they for me? Probably.
More than likely.
I told my sister about the Reese's eggs.
Yeah. I told
about
Frank.
the whole conversation that you had.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to tell Frank that he has to bring a bag in, and I'm not going to tell him why.
Thank goodness. I told him he has to keep them stocked because I eat them daily from the basket in there.
That's so funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, Frank and I spend a lot of time together between the groups. So.
Frank's a great guy.
Yeah. We get a lot of good feedback. Frank's in so many of our our reviews, our positive reviews.
Right.
He's not in any of the negative ones. You know, it's usually silly stuff in the negative reviews that you're just kind of like,
Yeah. Food, lie, just fables.
yeah.
Fables.
I mean, real healing goes on out there,
Yes.
and you see it on a daily basis.
Yeah, I witness it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in those group settings, you know. So it's really cool. And they take it so seriously, which is awesome, you know. Because it's like you get a group. So I facilitate specifically the men's groups for psychodrama and family sculpture. It's always been that way. I don't really know why, but it's always been that way. I've always had the men's group. And they take it so seriously, you know. It's like you explain something that's brand new to most of them, right? For a lot of them, it's their first time in treatment, first time in therapy, first time trying to like actually do something different. And then you explain this group essentially where you're like, okay, I'm going to have you, you know, as like grown males sit in front of this mirror and like address yourself. And like, we're going to talk about your feelings and your problems and everyone's going to watch you do this.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to provide feedback and then they're going to provide feedback. Right. And so it's something that's extremely uncomfortable
Has
for
anybody ever
most
tried to
of
ditch
them.
group?
Yes, quite frequently.
like I'm shy by nature,
Yeah.
and you put me in a front and then a mirror. Oh my God. I used to not go to, when you had to get up and write a paper at school in high school and then read it in front of class.
Give a public speech.
Yeah. I would ditch.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I would literally ditch the class.
Bro, you kidding me? I remember one time I'm sitting in class reading my notes, shaking, and sweat dripping off my nose. And I got on my paper and I went to rub it, and all the ink smushed together. And I'm sitting there, I got to the line. I'm like, yeah,
I can't read that.
I don't know what's happening, but I'm
Not okay.
No, I'm
yeah.
not okay. No, I was never okay. But I started doing this mirror work.
Yeah.
Today, my mirror work consists of I look in the mirror, I go, you are nuts, just leave the house.
You are
That's my mirror
just
work.
leave the house.
That's my mirror work. Nothing as bad is going to happen today. You're still crazy, just go.
Yeah. Just go out into the
That's
world.
what I do, and I make
Sounds
it
like
through
acceptance.
Yes, yes, acceptance. Yeah,
I'm really mean to myself. Like I talk to myself like David Goggins.
yeah.
Or not David Goggins. Goggins.
Goggins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, get your lazy ass up out of the bed right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
3 a.m.'s not good enough. Make it 2:20.
4 a.m. wasn't good enough. So you need to be out of bed at 3.
God.
Because somebody else is getting up at 4. They're getting up before you.
Yeah.
But it works for me.
That's good.
It might not be the greatest tool, you know, in therapy. You probably want people to
I
talk.
may not advise it
Yeah.
in my groups, but
Right.
As long as you
If
get
it
a
works
nice
for
7
you.
to 8 hours. Yeah. True.
3 a.m.
Yeah.
is what time I get up.
wow.
You're into
impressive.
you're into the gym, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
go every morning before work still, which is cool. So, I mean, I'm an early riser, but not 4 a.m.
Not 4.
No,
Well,
the
I'm
alarm goes off at 5:50.
5:50.
Yeah.
But are you like up and straight to the gym then, or?
Yeah, so I'm usually at the gym. I'll get up, have my coffee, hang out for like 30 minutes, just kind of wake up, morning routine,
Yeah.
do my gratitude, all of that, and then I go to the gym. So around 6:30.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in gym every day.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, it's
It's early for me now too.
5 a.m.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5. I was there
4:45.
Yeah, 5:15 this morning. I hit the gym for me.
Yeah. I took a day off finally. I went like 14, 15 days in a row.
Yeah.
And yesterday I was at the gym and I was like trying to run on the treadmill. My body was like just
Not
saying,
having it.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, it's leg day. So today was supposed to be leg day. So I'm like, just take a day in between. You can get a better leg workout tomorrow. And then I like running after leg day. Oh man, it's like insane in the mind. The like the mental toughness that it takes to get all of that crap out of your legs and get back into the flow of just running.
I tried running today.
You did?
I did a mile.
Oh, you did?
I did a mile.
Oh, this is great.
Not all in one pace.
I mean, no, it's
Not
great
all in
that
one
you-
shot.
Yeah. Did you run uphill?
I ran uphill at 6.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
6.
I do the 7.
And I had 6 at 6. I was 6 at 6.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I was going 6 at 6.
That's fast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
that's
I got
really
long
fast.
legs.
That's really
Yeah.
uphill.
Uphill, I walk at 4 uphill.
Okay.
So I'm walking fast at 4, so I went to 6 to do the run.
You know what's funny is I have short legs.
Yeah.
4 is running. I 3.8 is the fastest walk I can do. Otherwise, I look like an idiot speed walker. There's this lady on, the other day. There was this lady on the treadmill next to me, and I always, if somebody's next to me, I look at their time.
So do
I look
I.
at how fast they're
So do
going.
I. That's
look
the
to see if they
competitive
have
nature in you, bro.
an incline.
Same here.
And this lady
Same here.
was going 4.5. and she was walking. And I was like, I was at 3.5 walking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 4.5 is like my run.
Yeah.
Like when I'm on the 7
She's a
incline.
pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a pro.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
Yeah.
I can't walk that fast.
No.
I watch myself in the mirror. I can only see from here down.
Yeah. My HM is really awkward. They put the treadmills back to back or front to front.
Front to front. Oh, so you're staring at someone?
Well, I always pick one where nobody is, but
Yeah.
then somebody always comes on, and then you're like forced to like look at your phone or stare off into space.
Right.
It's just like so weird
That's
because
no
you don't
fun.
want to make eye contact,
Oh,
right?
that's so awkward.
Yeah, it's really weird.
You can't. And if you're on there for half an hour and make eye contact like 13 times, still good.
The other
Still
day,
good.
there was a guy on there, and I was like, I'm really into running, and then we just had a full blown conversation
Yeah.
for like 5 minutes. Like he was a real runner though. Like I'm not a real runner.
No, I still feel jiggly on there. You know, it's crazy.
So
Yeah,
you've been
not
working
running right now.
working out the whole time,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, working out the whole time, still
Yeah.
doing the stairs, which is good.
Yeah.
Obviously made some moderations in my workouts, but still getting up and going to the gym every day, walking my dog, so feeling really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is supposed to be good for me and the baby. So
Yeah, of course. My wife
Yeah.
did the same thing right to 8.5 months. Cycling,
mm-hmm.
weightlifting, all of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm doing
It's
all of that
important.
too. So my goal is to, go as long as I can.
Yeah,
Up until
of
the baby's
course.
born.
You know,
Yeah.
2
Given
days
that
later,
I
get back to
continue
work.
feel good. Yeah, I mean, I have 4 weeks left, so
4
unless
weeks
something
left.
drastically changes, I feel like I'll be able to work out up
Yeah.
until
Yeah, for sure you
he's
will.
born.
Yeah.
Till the due date, 4 weeks.
So I have 4 weeks left of work and
Or-
then 5 weeks until.
Oh, you're working all the way up
due date.
until just 1 week before due date.
Yeah, that's my plan.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, unless he changes that plan, which
Right.
he might.
I have a picture of this young lady in the hospital having her last child with one phone in her hand, the other phone in her ear, and she was still.
Oh, so she used to work for you.
I
know.
can't say her
I
name.
know who you're talking
I
about,
can't say her
though.
name, but she was still working for me. And there's
Oh
a
my
picture of her in the
gosh.
hospital while she's having, like, just right there in labor, and she's still on the phone working.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how we roll.
Yeah,
Closing the lead.
Yeah, closing. Yeah, exactly.
that is hysterical.
So like Shane and I, we're more of the before people get here. You know, Shane loves the phones. He likes talking to the clients on the phones. He's really good at it. But then you get them after when they
Yeah.
first get here.
Once they're here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I mean, when they first get here, they're essentially assigned a clinical team within a few days. So I'm responsible for that. So determining who's going to work with them as their therapist and their case manager. And then the clinical team is required to meet with them within 72 hours. So they see their therapist and case manager really, really quickly.
That's good.
Yeah, after admitting. And then we always prioritize if anyone's like, known to be a high risk coming into treatment. So whether or not like they're a high risk for self-harm, suicide, relapse, high risk given like their drug of choice. So for example, if someone's like an IV fentanyl user, obviously we'd want to prioritize, right? Because their risk for leaving treatment, their risk for relapse, their risk for death is significantly higher. So we really do take all of these things into consideration when meeting with them, but we meet with all the patients within 72 hours and then weekly from there. I'd say the biggest changes happen in the first little bit of time as they're detoxing and completing that, because we see them get to like medically or physically stabilize, and then we get to start working on the emotional stuff. So I'd say for the therapist specifically, like, the work really starts once they're more medically or physically stable, so that they can start working on some of those underlying emotional issues, which they all have,
We all do.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Still working on mine.
Yeah. I was listening to, what's that? He does the New Year's ball now instead of Dick Clark.
Ryan
Ryan
Seacrest?
Seacrest.
Yeah, Ryan Seacrest. He was on today saying that he still has thoughts of him being a kid and being fat. And he still lives with that on a daily basis. I just found that it's on the way to work. I was listening to him. I just found it amazing. It doesn't matter what you're doing or where you are. And then they had a question: would your younger self be happy with who you are today and feel accomplished? And that's when it brought up that, yeah, I would like. And then his counterpart, the lady there, was saying, yeah, but I'm insecure about my decision making. Some real stuff this morning on the way to work. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I think, like, our job or my job as a therapist and our therapist jobs here, like, are really cool because we get to have those really deep discussions every day. Whether
Yeah.
it's in an individual session or group sessions, they're always really deep, productive conversations. about, you know, why we are the way that we are, why we think the way that we are, what patterns do we have, the behaviors that we've developed. So like a lot of the work that we do are like on negative core beliefs, right? So what does a person think about themselves and why? And then how does their drug use or their substance abuse like exacerbate that or make those thoughts worse? Because obviously we know when we can identify someone's negative core beliefs, so what they think about themselves, right? Whether it's they feel that they're worthless, less deserving, they deserve pain and suffering, whatever it may be, that they believe about themselves and the world around them, you know, you can typically really relate that back to like a lot farther back than they even recognize, you know, to like childhood experiences, early experiences, whether it's, you know, growing up in a, you know, a toxic or chaotic home environment where there's abuse or parents that struggle with substance abuse as well. Maybe they were bullied at school or they didn't have friends, right? All these things that are contributing factors to them later in life, kind of using drugs and alcohol as a means of coping with those things. And so we have those really deep discussions all the time, especially in the groups that I facilitate, because it's not forced, of course, but you know, that's the purpose of it, is like, why are you here? And you know, what's led you to get here, and then working to resolve some of those things. So obviously having the insight and awareness into like what they think about themselves or what they think about the world around them is the first step. And a lot of them don't have that insight. You know, they come in, it's their first time kind of being clear-minded and who knows how long. And they actually have really limited understanding of like why they are the way that they are. So getting to be like an objective outside person to them, you know, it's a lot easier for us to kind of point out likely what has hurt them or contributed to them ending up in rehab, essentially, you know, so helping them with that insight, and then, you know, deploying or administering, you know, therapeutic interventions and modalities to help decrease those negative beliefs or negative thoughts. Yeah,
which is almost impossible to get rid of. Right?
Well, I don't know, because I can relate to everything that she's saying, because the person that I used to believe I was I had that same issue that Ryan Seacrest did. I was a chubby kid. I got made fun of for being chubby. I got addicted to crystal meth because of that, because it was like a drug that made you skinny.
Sure.
And through that, a lot of bad things happened to me, and I had a real negative. I'd never accomplished anything in my life. Like, I had done nothing except for be a drug addict from 13 to almost 23 years old. And I got clean and sober, and like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I needed all of this. They didn't have this when I went to treatment the first time. It was, 12 steps, 12 steps, 12 steps. And I was such a shy kid. I went to NA meetings for 9 months before I even finally raised my hand and said, I'm Chad and I'm an addict, Shortly after that, Chaddict, my nickname.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, you like it?
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, I don't think that way about myself anymore. I really don't. Like, I know I'm a good person and that I work hard, and I work hard on myself, becoming a better version of myself every single day. But still, sometimes I look in the mirror, and like you said, though, sometimes I still look in the mirror and I see that fat kid, but I don't let him, I don't let him
out.
No, I don't let him lie to me.
Yeah.
He'll tell me stuff.
Bullshit.
But I just say, you know what? I don't believe you.
Yeah.
That's not who I am.
No.
Yeah, and I think that's the way for like a lot of our patients, is like they're going to have to live with some negative thoughts, right? Because I think we all do.
Yeah.
Universal kind of human experience. We criticize ourselves. We have insecurities, right? But knowing that they're like irrational, they're negative, they're not true, right? It's like, so we can have these thoughts and still, as long as we have the skills to challenge them, then we can learn to believe something different. Yeah. I tell patients all the time, like in groups, right, where it's like, they weren't born hating themselves. Yeah. Like, they're the people in their life, their experiences, the world has taught them that. So just like they've learned that, we can learn something else. It's just we have to recognize why we think the way that we think, why we feel the way that we feel, and then go back, process, identify, and resolve those things so that we can come up with a more at least realistic or rational sense of ourselves, right? We still may have the parts of ourselves that we don't like, but it's going to be a more rational understanding of ourselves, because now we've worked on the parts that we do like, or we've at least gained a better understanding, a more neutral perspective of like who we are as people.
Now, is that a specific therapy that you're talking about right there?
Yeah, so a lot of that is like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? So it's taking like, what does the person think about themselves? What were the situations, triggering events, right, or experiences that contributed to those thoughts? What do those thoughts induce in regards to emotions? And then what do those emotions result in regards to behavior? So like, for example, if we have a patient that their thoughts are constantly that they're worthless, the emotions are going to be negative, right? Whether it's depression, anxiety, right, low self-esteem, those kinds of things. And then the behavior is going to be something in an attempt to like immediately gratify or reduce those emotions. And so for all of our patients here, obviously we have substance abuse. They have a variety of other behaviors that they engage in too that are unhealthy, but obviously primarily here we're looking at the substance abuse. And so you can kind of track really well when you actually sit down and have the opportunity to speak with them, like that cognitive model, which is what we call that in CBT, is like, okay, here are the thoughts, here are the emotions, here's what you do as a result. Okay, where do those things come from? And then working to process and resolve them. Because a lot of times they're not real, like they're not rational.
Right.
You know,
the
it's working.
Thought just it'll trigger an emotion, whether it's, it could be a completely irrational thought that triggers a negative emotion. And I don't know if you want to call it emotions. I feel like emotions are emotions. They're not negative or positive. I think it's how we deal with the emotion that makes it negative or positive.
Yeah, I mean, I tell them all the time, like every emotion serves a purpose. Like a lot of the groups that we focus on are, a lot of our patients come in and they feel like a very overwhelming or inappropriate amount of like guilt and shame, right, for their addiction, the things that they've done, the hurt that they've caused their family or loved ones. So looking at, you know, guilt is actually intended to be a motivating feeling, right? So you're right in the sense it's not good or bad. It's intended to be motivating, right? Like if I do something that makes me feel guilty, that feeling it's supposed to motivate my behavior to change moving forward, right? So like if I'm in a relationship and, you know, I lie, let's say, for example, and the person finds out and I feel guilty about it, it's supposed to motivate me to be honest in my relationships moving forward, right? And then that's how we correct that feeling. But, you know, unfortunately what happens for a lot of the patients is like they continue to engage in these behaviors that make them feel guilty, like the drug addiction, right? Hurting their family members or loved ones. And so it perpetuates into like shame. Like, so it goes from I'm doing something wrong to like I am something wrong, which is the difference between those two things. So we do a lot of like differentiating between guilt and shame. And then how do you process or work through both? Because it's the thoughts that trigger the feelings that triggers the behavior. So it's like the initial thought is the problem, not necessarily how they feel or how they respond. So if we can go all the way back to like, how do you feel about yourself in those moments, or what are you thinking, right? Well, if you're thinking I'm worthless and then I go use, the problem isn't the using, it's the feelings of worthlessness, right? And so if we can work to resolve that, then, you know, ideally we would expect then that we would see the behavior to change subsequently as well.
Start to challenge that thought, because you might still have the thought. I still have the thought.
Yeah, sometimes.
But I challenge it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Not today.
I mean, but you know, when you start stacking good stuff, good things, wins. You know, I like to call them wins. Yeah. For lack of a better term. When you start stacking wins, and you have a lot of wins on your side, it's so easy to challenge that thought. It's hard to challenge it when you first get to treatment, because all you have, you've been stacking losses, you know, and you're in, because by the time somebody picks up the phone to call, you know, us, they're having the worst day of their life, not the best day. And they've been having a lot of those days in a row. I mean, but that's a win. Picking up the phone and calling and asking for help is a win. That's win number one.
Yeah. They may not recognize that.
Oh, they do. We let them know. We let them know.
Yes.
Your day started the second I pick up that phone. Yeah. I let them know that this is a win today for you.
You might not even be clean and sober yet, but you picked up the phone.
Yeah. Big deal.
And asked.
Yep. And I only laugh because we, in one of my groups last week, we were actually joking about this, you know, because I asked one of the patients if they could look in the mirror and let me know what it is that they saw when they looked in the mirror and how they felt about themselves. And the whole group laughed because he's like, I'm only a few days sober, and when I look in the mirror, like, you know, I'm not here on like a winning streak, you know, like I'm sitting in rehab, you know, and like, you know, I'm feeling terrible. You know, he'd only been here for a few days, so still, you know, not feeling great, you know, physically or emotionally. And he's like, I'm definitely not here on a winning streak. I don't think anyone comes to rehab on their best day.
No.
And the whole group just got such a kick out of that. Everyone started laughing because obviously they can all relate. It's like, it's not where you want to be, but it's where they need to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something.
It's better than the alternative. I know,
Right.
people come to rehab and it's hard. It's really hard when you get here. You don't know what really is going. Some people don't know what to expect. Some people it's easy. Some people it's really hard though. And you take away the substances, and for the first time ever, you have to deal with this without any substances.
Yep.
And that's difficult. And I always just pray. Like I pray every morning for our clients, for the staff to, but I pray that they're able to sit in that and get through it and not run, because so many people run before the miracle happens. I mean, it could be just 5 minutes. And I know this only from personal experience. You know how many times I got to rehab and I ran because I was uncomfortable with myself. And then I wanted to say, oh, the rehab sucked or this or that. Well, where I finally got clean and sober at was like the dirtiest, worst possible place you could be. Blood splattered all over the walls. It wasn't not luxury. That's for sure.
Right.
But it's what I needed.
Yeah. If you want to do the work, then that's really what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think they had one licensed
Therapist.
certified counselor there.
Wow.
They had one licensed therapist who actually, after I left, I continued to see him for about 2 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Because he had a private practice as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Good. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
Every time I get squirrely, I always know when I get squirrely too. Like, things will get a little bit rougher and, just everything gets a little bit harder for me. And then I'll just call him up. I'll be like, hey, I need a couple sessions.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's going on with me.
Yeah, it's great that you can recognize the behavior, because I think that's a big part of like what we try to do with the patients here is recognizing when they're doing something that's like an old habit, even though they're not relapsing or using while they're here, right? But it's still like you're kind of on that road based on your behavior. Like when they're talking about, when they first get here and I want to finish the program, and then after a week they're like, no, I'm feeling great. I think I'm ready to go home.
I know.
And it's like, we're reverting back to old behaviors, even though they can't recognize it because they're not using drugs or alcohol. It's like we're still engaging in some high risk behaviors. And so that's like my favorite part of getting to really be involved in like working with all the patients that come through here, 6 hours a week, essentially in those group sessions, is like, you really get to know them well. And so I can call them out more or less on their behavior, right? Like, that's different from what you reported last week. What's the difference here? What are we doing? How are you trying to run away from your problems, right? What's going on here? And so that opportunity to like get to know them really well is cool, because you can call them out essentially.
Yeah. Those are the times that are scary though, man, because you're like one bad decision away. Yeah. And how, as it is right now with the fentanyl, it's like you're one bad decision away from not being here.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, you do have to provide more of that blunt, education.
Yeah.
I've had to do that a lot of times.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of telling people that. Like,
no, not at all.
Especially after I lost my daughter's boyfriend. It's just like, man, we didn't expect that. I didn't expect that phone call that on September 11th at 7:30 a.m.
Yeah, I don't think anything prepares you for that, but
no.
Having to provide them the education a lot of times, especially if their drug of choice is fentanyl, or really, any kind of opiate, just with how much fentanyl is laced in most things now, it seems.
Yeah, we had a client come through meth and alcohol, I think. Tested positive for fentanyl. He'd never done fentanyl. He thought he'd never done fentanyl ever in his life.
Happens all the time.
I'm talking to a 67-year-old veteran right now. He only does alcohol and marijuana. He overdosed on fentanyl last week. They had to, the paramedics brought him back. Yeah.
So scary.
Fentanyl in his weed.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Like I was working with a patient recently, 18 years old, and he said, his UA came back and had fentanyl in it. And he was like, no, that's got to be a mistake. Like, I don't know how that would happen. Because he had reported to me, he's taking pure Percocet, quote unquote, because he's not getting, he's not getting it from a doctor. But, it's sad because he's 18. Like, I know he's not technically a child, but he's naive in the sense that, he believes whoever he's getting this from is pure. And then he comes in and he has fentanyl in his
He's
system.
a child in the sense that he's 18. He's probably been using since 12.
Right.
So he, in a sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and
And I'm not the professional here, but what, you know?
yeah, no, they're very young. And
Very
like, I
young.
mean, developmentally, like your brain isn't done
Yeah.
developing until on average 25 years old.
Yeah.
So even for him technically being an adult at 18, like developmentally,
Yeah.
you know, he's definitely not. So
And I had read something, or I listened to a study where they had some people just sit on the couch and think about going to the gym, and some people actually went and participated in the gym. The people that participated in the gym had an average 30% increase in muscle mass. The people sitting at home thinking about working out had a 15% increase in muscle mass.
oh, that's
Oh, wow.
interesting.
Yeah. That was the strength of the brain. I was reading that study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The brain is amazing.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, positive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just like retraining or reprogramming
Yeah.
your brain essentially is a lot of the focus of what we do here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a typical day like for our clients? Not for you,
I was going to say, I don't have a typical
Yeah.
day.
not you,
It's different always
for the clients.
for the clients.
Like after detox. Detox is,
detox.
detox.
Is its own entity.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So after detox, the patients engage in group programming all day, Monday through Saturday. So Monday through Friday, it consists of 3-hour groups in the morning and then 3-hour groups in the afternoon. The topics rotate throughout the week, but essentially we have repeated topics week after week that are evidence-based or what we know are going to be the most effective in regards to actually helping the patient. So some group topics that they don't repeat in the material, but they're on the schedule every week are things like anger management. We know for many of our patients, anger, irritability, frustration is a huge relapse trigger. So anger management is on the group schedule weekly. We have 12-step introduction, like traditional 12-step groups, relapse prevention, coping with cravings. We have cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, both evidence-based interventions. We have the experiential group. So essentially they do 6 hours of intensive group therapy every day. And then they have access to the cafeteria for lunch, gym, and then twice a week they go to an outside 12-step meeting.
Nice.
And then they meet with their therapist and case manager weekly as well. So day to day is pretty structured and routine for them. Ideally, it looks more or less the same for them every day, given the groups are changing. But
Yeah. Do you ever hear clients say that it's redundant?
yeah, so we get that a lot where they feel like it's repetitive or redundant. And so, you know, I've just directed our clinical team to provide the education that, you know, repetition is retention.
Yeah.
So they're going to learn best when they can hear something multiple times and then apply it multiple times, right? And I mean, we all know like it takes 21 days to build a habit. And so we want them to be every day, every week while they're here practicing the same exact things. Because essentially, I mean, how the brain works is like right now or when they come into treatment, their brains are programmed for one thing essentially, right? And that's to cope with everything with drugs and alcohol. And so if we actually want them to learn how to cope with something different, we have to provide the information multiple times and then allow them the opportunity to actually practice what we're teaching or what we're, you know, educating them on. We have to give them the opportunity to practice that multiple times too. So yeah, they, you know, say like, oh, this is redundant. We've talked about triggers already this week or whatever it may be, but just providing them that education that, you know, it's like however many years or however long they've been using, it's going to take some time too. And hearing information multiple times and practicing coping skills multiple times for them to actually make changes. You know, it's not that their intention isn't actually there, right? Like they want to make these changes, but actually making those changes, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Can't build a bicep overnight
Right.
either. You gotta repeat,
Yeah, repeat.
right?
Yeah, every day.
You know?
Yeah.
I just fill my head with like positive stuff every day. Sometimes I get on the treadmill and I listen to the same positive. I have this one. It's by Motiversity. It's a YouTube, and I like it. I like it so much that it like pushes me, and so that's the one that I use when I run on the treadmill.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like for me, you know, putting in, I don't really, my whole music and everything has changed too. I'm not into like the negative stuff anymore. I don't know what happened. I kind of went back to like 90s, like alternative rock. I don't know. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
They're
Can't
really
beat
good.
that rock and roll, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't beat that old stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a new demographic. Well, not new, but it's a couple years old. We have the veterans coming in. Are you're working with them?
Yes.
So how has that changed? Because obviously you're going to school. They didn't teach you specifically veteran behavior or veteran. How is that going?
Yeah, it's going well. I think, I find that regardless of the demographic, like if you can really identify those underlying issues, then therapy essentially more or less not looks the same. It's individualized to each patient, of course, but the modalities or the interventions that you utilize are beneficial or applicable across the board in regards to demographics. And so I actually think the interventions that we utilize are not more tailored to the veteran population, but they're working really well with our veterans. Especially the narrative therapy groups, psychodrama, family sculpture. So they get to talk about some of those, traumatic experiences in a safe setting. And then we have cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy, which is an evidence-based intervention that really supports, research really supports that that's effective for the veteran population. So DBT essentially, we're implementing skills related to distress tolerance, emotion regulation, interpersonal effectiveness, so like how to engage with other people appropriately. A lot of the presenting problems that our veterans do have, right? Because they go into a very unique environment, right, in the military where, it's not beneficial for them to have or express emotions. They have to take direction, do their jobs. They can't stop to think about what they're feeling or how it's affecting them. But ultimately it does, right? And so then, they come here and in the groups and in sessions, we allow them the opportunity to actually process, like, what was that actually like and how did that feel without essentially their lives being risked, right? So yeah, there's a lot of benefit to it. And then, learning how to actually manage those feelings when they're talking about them for the first time, because that's really dysregulating to them a lot of times is when they start to feel something and they've been trained essentially not to for however long they've been in the military because it's not beneficial to them, right? It's not going to be helpful to them in a survival situation where their life is at risk to consider how they're feeling in that moment.
Completely useless.
Yeah. And so, it's best for them to almost act on like those more kind of primitive, right? Like human instincts and responses that we have, but they do affect
four instincts?
them.
What are the instincts? There's basic 4, or is it 3 or?
So, well, in regards to like survival, right? It's like your prefrontal cortex, so like the highest functioning part of your brain is essentially inhibited because keeping you alive is the number one priority, right? So it's focusing on like your physical body, like how are you doing, the people around you, threats, things like that. And so when that frontal cortex kind of comes back online, if you will, a lot of times they remain in that survival mode, even though it's no longer beneficial to them. So we'll see that, like, we were working with a patient recently who's a veteran, and he had significant trauma well before joining the military. So he was actually, in his own words, he would always say, like, he was really bred to like join the military because he had learned to suppress emotions well before he turned 18 and he joined the military. Had a very traumatic upbringing, grew up in a really impoverished neighborhood, joined a gang when he was a teenager, a lot of gang violence, just saw a lot of terrible things, absent father, abusive home. And so, he's been in survival mode essentially since he's been born. And so, now it no longer serves him because he's not in that environment where his life is at risk all the time, but he lives in such a way where his body and brain feel like he is at risk all the time. So anytime he would talk about any emotional experience, it was so dysregulating to him that DBT was extremely effective because he was able to learn to regulate his emotions and manage his distress. And then we could actually start processing what happened to him. So I think a lot of times, we ask like, well, people outside of the field that are not as educated, they'll ask like, what's wrong with them? Like, why are they acting like this? Why is he this way? And we get the opportunity or the privilege to ask like, what happened to them? Because that's what it is. What happened to him is why he presents the way that he presents today. And if you really just get to know his story, and it makes a whole lot of sense why he is the way that he is. So
it's all good stuff.
It's great
stuff. I mean, it's
incredible.
Like, I hear this and I'm like, wow,
is this us?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, It's amazing. And it's because they're amazing. You know,
Right.
like they make my job so easy. I walk into those groups on Tuesday and Thursday morning and like they're there on time. They're ready to work. They take it seriously. Like they make my job so easy. Like they volunteer to do the group exercises. Someone asked me the other day, a staff member, they were like, what do you do if no one volunteers to do the group? And I said, I've done it for almost 4 years and I've never had that. And it's 6 hours every week. So it's 6 different people weekly. I've never had that happen where someone doesn't volunteer to participate, you know? So it's just, that speaks to them. Like they're amazing,
Right.
you know, they make it easy.
I heard that you run a pretty tight ship, pretty structured.
I do. Yes. I know I have that reputation. They let me know all the time.
I think it's good,
pretty
though.
funny. Yeah.
It's good. Like, I think we like structure.
Yeah, we thrive on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether they know it or not, they
Right.
need it. So implementing that for them, or kind of demonstrating what that looks like is really important. So yeah, they always joke with me that I'm like too strict or, you know, whatever it may be, but,
No food or drink in group.
no,
right?
oh, we have lots of rules. Yeah.
No gum chewing.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, I
Gotta be
am
on
very
time.
strict with the group.
What happens if
Yeah.
you're late to group?
I ask them not to come in.
Oh.
It's disruptive. And then we'll typically talk on the break, which they don't want to do because then I'm taking up their break time.
Yeah, of course.
They'd rather be on time.
So how often are people late to your group? Not often, right?
Not often. No. Maybe like the first time that they're new to the group.
Yeah.
And then I kind of explain the rules and explain like how important punctuality is, why it's considered disrespectful. And also it's a life skill, right? Like I can't show up to my job late. Like if they want to function outside of treatment, these are some things that they're going to have to learn. Like you
These
have
are
to be on
basics.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be able to sit for 45 minutes, you know?
Right.
Like they're, you know, some of them are like, you know, needing to go to the bathroom 2 times in a 45-minute span. And it's like, that's something you're going to have to learn to deal with
It's a nervous
or
pee.
talk to the doctor about.
Yeah.
Talk to the doctor about it.
Yeah. So we have a lot of rules, but it's really important because the groups that, you know, I facilitate specifically they're a little bit
Intense.
more like, emotionally intensive or
Yeah.
vulnerable. So I want it to be a respectful and safe space for them. And so
Right.
I have to really like lay down the law, if you will, and like set groundwork, but also like then they're learning respect. They respect me, I respect them, and we can have a productive group session, right? Because again, it is hard sometimes to expect a group full of grown adults to like sit in the mirror and talk about their feelings. And so if you don't keep it structured and you don't keep it really serious, I mean, it's going to be a big joke. And that's what you don't want because it is really productive.
Yeah.
Right.
So they have to take it seriously. So yeah, they always joke that I'm strict and, you know, I'm mean and all of these things, but it's good for them.
It is good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone needs a positive influence in their life, and they're never going to forget you. I mean, you're bringing them from the cusp of depression and full of anxiety to a whole new life and seeing the opportunity for them to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the best part.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The best part.
Good
of
for
my
you.
job.
So you've been here, you've been at Hope by the Sea for how long?
It'll be 4 years in June.
4 years in June.
Coming up on 4 years. Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any lives change?
Oh my gosh, every day, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, I see them, I just have the groups now, so I see it on a more kind of outside basis. But
Yeah.
when I was carrying, you know, an individual caseload and having patients, like, yeah, I mean, you work with some people that are, I mean, they're very, they have a lot going against them, unfortunately, you know,
Yeah.
and so those are the lives that I think transform the most. And, you know, I have so many patients that like I think a lot of us, well, I'll speak for myself, but going into like a helping profession, you know, it's like we have the intention of changing other people's lives. And then you kind of forget along the way that like a lot of times they actually change yours.
Yeah.
And I've had that experience so many times where like I get to watch their lives change and it changes mine and almost selfishly feels like, you know,
Good job.
like I'm doing,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
like I feel like you helped me more than I helped you, you know, like it's amazing just seeing that. And yeah, to know like you played a part in it. I mean, a small part. They're the ones doing all of the
Right.
work, but
Right.
yeah, it's remarkable. It's the best part.
It's I think of all of us, you know, clinical, all the staff, all the facilities, the Infinity Group as a whole. We're just a vessel. We're a vessel, and they have to do all the work. You know, we give them the tools, but you can give them all the tools in the world, but if they don't pick them up and use them, nothing's going to change.
Right. Yeah.
But what I enjoy the most is when Pete or Penny or Facebook, somebody will send something out, and they're like, "Hey, I've got this much time clean and sober, and thank you guys so much." And I think about that stuff often, and like it's always been like, I'm like, man, this is a hard job.
Yeah.
It's hard working in this industry, because you see a lot of failure too, or people not wanting to pick up the tools. But when you see it, and I start to think about, we were a part of that person's change, and not only did we change that, anybody that comes in contact with this person from here on out is going to have a different experience than they would have had prior to this. And that's like the ripple effect.
Yeah, it's like we're there for their first walk,
Yeah.
their first steps.
You
birth.
drop the pebble, and it's just like
Yeah.
life changing. And those are the rewards that I feel like I get to receive because I do this type of work. Even though I'm not directly involved in their therapy, I'm indirectly involved in their care, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. It's it's what God left me here for. What is for this, you know? And I know this because this is 22 years later when I should have died. I should have died 22 years ago, and I'm still here, and I'm doing this, and it's fucking amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like I said, we have the most amazing patients, and even the most challenging ones, because like as a therapist, you meet with them for their initial session and you get a sense, like, okay,
This one's going to be a little
yeah,
bit.
this one's going to be a little bit more challenging. How motivated are they?
Yeah.
Why are they here? Right. But like that's like my population. Like, I love that population. That's just like, just everything is against them, because you get to be the one person in their corner when like they haven't had anyone.
Yes.
And, like recently, one of the patients of mine that did really well came back and like spoke as an alumni speaker. And he's someone that like shouldn't have made it, right? Like everything was against him,
Yeah.
and like he's back here and he got to speak, as an alumni, and like it's just so cool. Because I remember meeting him for the first time and like had my work cut out for me, It's like, my goodness. He didn't want to be here, he wanted to detox and then he wanted to go back home, it's like he was going to leave and whatever. And I remember he's like probably just one of the few that in our first session, I was seriously like he might like die here on my couch. Like, he was so sick. Wow. It was like the second day he was here, he's coming off fentanyl, been an IV fentanyl user for the past several years. Right. And just so sick. Like, the shell of a human being was on my couch. Right. And had the trash can on his lap, like just so sick. And I'm like, I'm not a medical professional. Like, what do I do if something happens? And just not wanting to be here, And I remember I said, like, because I try to be fairly positive even when they're not. And I said, like, I'm so looking forward to working with you, at the end. And he goes, no, you're not. And I was like, no, I am. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I was like, I don't know if that's like a threat or if he's just like, no, you're not. But yeah, and he
felt
stayed.
Like you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he ended up staying like 120 days in the program after not wanting to be here. Our first session was, one word answers, shaking his head yes or no. I was doing a lot of the talking, for the first probably 3 or 4 weeks. Like, we'd sit in session for an hour and he really wouldn't say anything. And we'd just kind of sit there and look at one another, and I'd ask some questions, and sometimes he wouldn't even answer them. He would just sit there and look back at me. And so I'd talk about whatever and continue to ask questions, and he just was not interested. But, the more that I got to know him, it's like he's been institutionalized his whole life, know. So trusting people is not something that is good for him, or he's learned has been, is bad. So, and like, he didn't have a father figure, and he started actually using meth with his mom when he was like 12 or 13 years old.
That's
and
heavy
then,
stuff.
yeah. And then he was removed from her care, and he went into like a youth academy type group home setting. He was kicked out of every group home he was in, you know, and then he phased out of the system and spent several years at like maximum security prison, you know. So it's like, no one, you know, you get to know him a little bit, and it's like, well, no wonder he doesn't want to sit here and talk to me, you know, he doesn't trust me. And so it was like really the first month was just like very basic, like rapport building, getting to build a relationship with him. And, you know, he probably looks at someone like me, like, how in the world are you going to help me, you know, like with what I've been through, you know?
Right. Exactly.
So, you know, and then he kind of started doing the like, which they do a lot. And it's like, okay, well, if the silence isn't going to work and you come back and still have to meet, you know, I still have to see you every week. That didn't work to get rid of me. So it's like, then, you know, a lot of times what they'll do is like the shock factor, we call it as therapists, where they'll just like drop something on you that's like intended to be really shocking and see like how you respond to the information. So they're testing you, you know? And so he would share something that was just like, I'm sure they're true, right? I'm sure it's true. But just something like so beyond, and just kind of absorb like how you respond to the information, trying to gauge like, can I trust this person? How are you going to react? Are you judging me? Right? Like all of these things. And eventually we developed such a wonderful relationship that he was able to actually tell me about all of that, right? Like, okay, sitting there and staring at you didn't get rid of you. So like, let's, you know, then I started telling you parts of my story that I thought would scare you to the point where maybe that would get rid of you, and it didn't, you know? So after about 2 months, we had a great relationship. And then, you know, the last 2 months that he was here, we were really able to make progress for him. And, you know, now he's still in this area. He chose not to go back home to a high risk environment.
Good for him.
Yeah, where he was, you know, involved in a gang and, you know, just bad things up there where he was from. And now he's still here. And like I said, he came back and spoke as an alumni and is like doing well despite everything, honestly, you know, so it's pretty amazing.
It's so cool because those are, I've learned in 22 years that I never judge somebody when they come in because, you know, that I did in the past. I was like, oh, this person's not going to make it. Man, this person's just like doing everything we ask them, like too good. Now I almost see that sometimes. So now people are, they almost people please. And they do too good and it throws them right back out. But sometimes the tough ones, the ones that, you know, you worked, I don't even know if we work any harder, but you just watch it. And next thing I know, they have 10 years clean and sober. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we talked to somebody the other day. I was like, man, I didn't think he was ever going to get sober.
Right.
I really didn't.
Yeah.
A gentleman that was on the podcast the other day, I was like, I wasn't sure he was going to get sober. I mean, he couldn't get sober in detox.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And he did. And here I saw him out in the parking lot one day and I was like, who in the fuck are you? I was like, no way.
Yeah.
I was like, you are a different person.
Yeah. Well, that's how I felt about the patient that I worked with that came back to do the alumni speaking, because I haven't seen him, you know, and he's like physically fit, in shape, looks great. And I'm like, who is this person, you know, compared to the, like, you know,
a shell of a body on
the
couch
person
there
that I saw that first day,
4 months
like,
earlier.
looks so healthy.
I mean, I love the fact that, like, besides all of the therapy and everything that they do, I love the gym at Hope by the Sea. I love that they have a basketball court. The guys, I mean, the Tuesday nights are amazing. Yes. Like,
I can hear it from my office.
Yeah, the bond, you know, that these guys have. And my son comes down and plays with them sometimes. I used to before I got injured so many times. Getting old.
Yeah.
They love it. Yeah, because I have the group with all the guys in the morning on Tuesday, and they're usually like talking about their team assignments for the evening, and we have to like cut it. Okay, we're starting group. Like, you guys can talk about this after.
Cool.
But they love it, you know, and they like train for it and practice, and it's super cool. But I think that's important because it builds that camaraderie and like sense of belonging for them. And I was talking to a client recently last week that was saying, like, you know, like he just feels so much better because he's in a safe environment. And like he was saying, all the guys at his house, like, you know, they cook dinner together every night and just they pray together before their meals. Like, they all sit down and they have like a family dinner. And it was just so like precious because he was like, I've never done that my whole life. Like his family, you know, wasn't available to do that.
Yeah.
You know, he had 2 working parents, and so he ate dinner by himself most nights, even as a kid growing up, you know. So he's like, it's so cool. Like we make dinner together, and he's learning how to cook. You know, the other guys are teaching him how to cook because he doesn't have life skills like that, you know. So they're cooking together, and he said they sit down and they pray together
nice.
and they have a meal together.
That's
you
good
know?
stuff.
Like but they're doing that on their own. It's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, when I was 22 and I went to rehab for the very first time, I didn't know how to do laundry.
Right.
No, I literally didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't know how to separate my clothes. I didn't know how to do any of it.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't important before that.
No, I can't even remember, like, how did my clothes get washed? Did they get washed back
Probably
then?
didn't.
Maybe my mom did it. I don't know.
Oh,
She's
maybe.
a little
Yeah.
codependent, so I love her to death. But
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of our clients, I mean, that's the last of their priorities,
Right.
you know? To
Yeah.
have clean clothes?
Yeah.
No, who cares?
I probably stole clothes from Walmart or something. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't even remember. It's a long time ago. But yeah, it's good stuff. The podcast before you, somebody, the ceiling stuff fell.
Yeah, I'm glad
Right in
that.
we pulled it
didn't
down because I didn't want to. I didn't want it to hit the baby.
Thank you. He appreciates it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for coming.
Thanks
This
for
was-
having me.
This was good.
It was
Awesome.
really good.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gail.
It was
Appreciate it.
really, really good.
Yeah, of course.
What's
Thanks
that
for
weird
having
fist
me.
bump thing you did with her? Is that what you do? Is that what we do? Fist
we
bump,
go.
I guess.
Oh, the
Can you reach-
hedgehog.
You know about the hedgehog?
Does it have a name?
No,
No.
that's the one thing we didn't do is give the hedgehog a name.
All right.
That's because we're guys. We don't name things.
Is it a girl or a guy? Hedgehogs are, I don't know. It's from the book
be either.
Good to Great, and they talk about the hedgehog concept. My sister snuck it on my desk, and I was like running around the office for like 2 weeks going, who the hell put this on my desk?
I think that it should have a name.
I don't know yet.
I don't know either.
We'll try to think of something
Yeah.
good for him.
What's the baby's name?
We don't have a name yet.
Oh, really?
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
what about that?
Yeah, I'll name the hedgehog, but not my own child.
Right?
It's hard to name another human being,
Yeah, it is. It's got to be perfect.
right?
Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure with
Have
that.
you ever
good.
done
though.
that before?
Yeah, 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah.
Did you?
What
I
are
mean,
your
you
kids'
had like a
names?
say-so in it?
Oh, yeah, I named all 3 kids.
You did?
Yeah.
Are they biblical names?
2 of them are. One was named by the other 2 kids because we were just having fun on the 3rd one already.
Oh.
You know, first
So
one's
you're-
Samson after my grandfather. The second
Samson.
one is Maya, spelled with an H. Backwards, it's Chaim or Chaim
Mm-hmm.
after my other grandfather. And then we just went El Diablo for the last one.
So
Coco.
that
Coco.
so that
Oh,
is
too.
so no, your son. I know Samson is Samson and Delilah.
Yeah.
Is that what he was?
Yes.
After?
Yes.
So that's in your
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
Book there?
That's the book.
Okay.
One of the books.
Yeah, one of the books.
Yeah.
Do you know which one?
I don't.
You know. And then your daughter's name.
Chaim. Backwards, Maya.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Coco.
And then Coco.
Yeah.
Her name is Coco.
Her name is Coco. The
Like
2
Co-
kids named her.
Coco
Yeah,
Chanel.
they just said
I love
Coco.
that.
Coco, God. It's Coco Delilah.
No, that's
Coco
what
Delilah earned.
There it is.
Samson and
Delilah,
Delilah.
yes. Coco Delilah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, my grandmother used to sing me the song from Tom Jones, Delilah. Ay, Delilah. You ever hear it?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Me either.
Yeah, so that's how I got Delilah.
We're waiting to get somebody on here who can sing because
Yeah.
these are really good microphones.
That would be really cool. I'm
Mhm.
trying to think. I don't
Yeah,
know anyone
anybody?
who can sing.
Any clients that can sing?
Not that I've heard. They sing, but
Not good.
not well.
Well, that's
Yeah.
about it. That's
That's
a wrap.
it. That's a wrap.
I feel
Awesome.
like this
Yeah.
was amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun.
Incredible. Another just 2
Thanks.
great ones today. Wow.
Yeah. Whew, this was a nice, much more relaxed.